Hey everyone, my name is Nadeem and welcome back to my channel. If you guys haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the like button as well. So as you guys know by now, this channel has become more about mindset and productivity. Over the past couple of videos, I've gone through some of the productive actions you guys can take to fix your life. Those actions can help you become more productive in every aspect of your life. For today's video, I'm going to focus more on the mindset portion. In order to achieve success in every aspect of your life, you need to be in the right mindset. If you're not in the right mindset, then whatever else you do doesn't really matter. So, in order to get to the right mindset, one of the things I recommend you guys to do is read books. I've read books throughout my entire life. I've been reading books for more than 20 plus years of my life. Therefore, in today's video, I'm going to give you 7 books that you can read to become more peaceful. Sometimes we all go through stuff, right? It could be job, it could be career, it could be family issues. When we're going through all of that stuff, sometimes we need to take a step back and reset ourselves. One of the ways you can reset yourself is actually read books or novels. I've actually been reading books for more than 25 plus years. Back when I was in middle school, I started reading books. I used to go to the library every single day pretty much, get a new book, come home and read. Some of the books I read, I finished in one day. Some it took me a month, some it took me a couple of months. So what I've done is that I've pretty much gone into my past and picked up some of the main titles that I remember so I can give you those titles. If you're into reading and you haven't read these titles, then you definitely need to go pick these titles up. And if you're not into reading, I would suggest you guys to give it a shot anyway. These books, which I'm going to go through, are some of the best books I've read in my entire life. These books are the titles that I remember even after 20 years of my life. So there must be something good and memorable about them, right? I'm sure you guys have heard of these titles by now. Some of these books have been made into movies, some of these books have been made into TV shows, and so on. Just to make sure I don't bore you guys to death, if you guys just want the list, I'm gonna put the list on the screen up here so you guys can just write that down and go get your books. But if you guys stay, then I'll tell you a bit about why I remember those titles or what I remember about them. Maybe this is something you can use to actually understand if you would like to get that book or not. The first one is the Dragonlance series. Now, the Dragonlance series has a lot of books in it. Okay? It has Tolkien features, meaning it has elves, it has dwarves, it has dragons, it has magic, and it has other wonderful creatures as well. So the Dragonlance series, there's a pre-magic series and a post-magic series. If you read everything from the beginning to the end, you'll start to connect all the dots. The Dragonlance series has over 150 books in the whole series. And these books have been written by many authors. So it's not like there's one author who wrote 150 books. You have many different authors contributing to the work. Like I said, growing up, I remember these books were so fun and amazing. Now, these books might be a bit kiddish, so if you start to read them and you feel like maybe that's a bit too kiddish for you, then maybe pass on those books to the kids around you. But even as adults, I feel like these books are pretty amazing. These books have the standard Tolkien characteristics. They have a bunch of different races, and if you love reading stuff like this with elves, magic, dragons, dwarves, and whatnot, then you will absolutely love these books. Number 2, check out the Dune series. Now I know you guys probably know Dune as movies, and so far there have been 2 movies made on the Dune series. The movies are absolutely amazing. I've seen them, and honestly, I love them. But the books themselves, they go way beyond what the movies give you. The books are at least 10 times more fun to read than watching the movies. So if you guys haven't read the books, pick up those books because that's one of my favorite series of all time. The Dune series, I would say, falls more on the sci-fi side than the fantasy side, but it does have some aspects which are more than science fiction as well. It's about a bit about space travel, about interplanetary wars. It's about a prophet or messiah which is going to show up. So if you're into this stuff, you will absolutely love the series. Number 3, the Mistborn series. I remember when I first began reading this book about 20 years ago. the first one, more than 20 years ago, I would say. There was something intriguing about the book. The whole system or the magical system was very different than the rest of the books out there. It felt kind of between science fiction and fantasy, falling into neither of those categories really. The story was amazing. Honestly, I just remember the feeling of feeling good when I read this series. It was absolutely amazing. Number four, the Foundation series. Again, a lot of you probably know the Foundation series as a TV show. So far, I believe there are two seasons released. When I said the Dune series of the movies were great to watch, I would say the Foundation kind of falls short of what the books actually are. So it was really fun to watch the Dune series movies. But the Foundation, they're pretty lacking on what the books actually were. Even if you like the TV show a tiny bit, I would recommend you guys to go pick up the books and just read through them. You're going to absolutely love them. The Foundation series is more science fiction. It's about something that's called psychohistory, or a mathematical way to predict the future. And because of that, a lot of chain events happen that end up destroying a lot of planets and an empire as well. If you're into science fiction, you definitely need to pick up this series. The fifth one is the Kingkiller Chronicles. So far, there have been two out of three books released from the main story. The second book, I believe, came out about 10 years ago or maybe even more. So the author wrote down the first book, released it, wrote the second book, released it, but the third book has been coming for 10 plus years. So I know a lot of people want to know what the ending is. So they don't want to start something which doesn't have an ending. And I totally understand that. It's a pain to wait for a book for more than 10 years. But honestly, the first two books, they're definitely worth reading. The books themselves are just written in a way which makes you want to know what happens next. Even the simplest of stuff that's happening, the way the author has written the book, it makes them so amazing that you want to know what happens next. But when you're reading the book, you simply can't put the book down. And honestly, even without the third and the final book being released, the first two books are definitely worth reading. So I would say again, check them out. The sixth one is The Wheel of Time. Again, a lot of you probably have heard about this series. This is a timeless classic, just like The Lord of the Ring. This series would fall more on the fantasy side, involving magic or something more like magic than science fiction. It's about a guy who's prophesied to be born with a lot of power, or reborn, I would say. The guy is destined to defeat a dark one, or the dark power, but at the same time destroy the whole world as well. So this story is about discovering who the guy is, him acquiring that power, getting stronger, and then goes on to battle the evil or the dark force which is in the books. Typical story, but the storyline itself and the way it's written, it's absolutely amazing. Now, these were the six books which I remember reading while growing up. And even after 20 plus years, I remember these books as something I really enjoyed while I read them. A couple of them I even went back and reread them a couple years ago as well. And they were just as good as they were 20 plus years ago. Now, if you're still here, then I have a series which I have for you. I wouldn't say this series is on the light side because it has hundreds of characters, hundreds of storylines, which at the end merge into one. The books themselves are very long and very complex, and the storyline is super complex as well. Just to keep a track of all the characters and where they are and what's happening to them, you probably need to make a cheat sheet for yourself. This bonus series is the Malazan Empire series. The main storyline has about 10 to 12 books, and then there are some prequels as well which were written. I've gone through and read the main series and not the prequels, so I know how the main story is. This last series, the Malazan series, is a story that's about hundreds of worlds, hundreds of characters, if not thousands, and thousands of different story plots merging together eventually into one. So while you're reading the series, it might look like each of the book is actually pretty independent. But as you keep on reading the stories, you start to see how each book or the event in each book is connected to the events that are happening in the other books. So at the end, everything makes sense when it comes together. Like I said, this book is not light, and it won't be so easy to read or so fast to read either. But to be honest, it's totally worth it. So there you go. I've given you a list of 6 series plus one bonus seventh one as well. Like I said, sometimes you guys need to take a step back and just read a book for light reading to give yourself the peace of mind, to reset yourself, to get yourself back together. And these books are probably the top series I've read in my entire life. And trust me, I've read thousands of books while growing up. These books or these stories were probably the best ones I've ever read. As always, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and like the video as well. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week.